Hi, you're listening to The Island of a Lost Pilot by Rajesh Bhatia, narrated by Deepak Agnihotri. Chapter 14. Fault in the Aircraft. Chang helped Rohan to set the directions for the backward destination. After 1 hour, it was complete darkness except the moonlight, light of the stars, and the illumination of dashboard lights. Below, the sea was black, some dark clouds were scattered, rain was expected. Somewhere far, the lights of a moving ship shone, which was moving lazily, cutting the chest of the vast sea. The speed was nearly 100 knots, slightly less than full speed. Now Chang was friendlier, as by now he had seen that Rohan was not cunning. Instead, he was a very calm, generous, and polished person. Chang asked about Rohan's family and was amazed at the bond between the family members. He was pleased to know that people in India still live happily in joint families, and the matured children take care of their parents and even the parents of their parents till they leave for heavenly abode. Talking about his family members, Rohan became so much engrossed in his thought that he felt them near him and looked around in the darkness in search of them. Instead of them, he found Chang sitting beside him, watching him carefully. "What happened, Rohan?" asked Chang with real concern. "You Indians will certainly enhance my feelings about sentiments." Rohan spoke in a hoarse voice. I miss my family," and wiped tears from his eyes. "You have a family and miss it. I don't have a family and miss it." Chang was serious and looked away outside of the window, where nothing was to be seen in the complete darkness. He didn't even lift his hand to wipe the tears, as he didn't want to show his weakness to Rohan, that he could also cry. In this situation, if somebody had tried to console him, he was sure to cry like a child. He wished he had an elder sister like Rohan had and could share some of his problems with her. Rohan had told him about his sister Ritu, how she gave him pocket money from her savings, how she cooked food for him when mother was away, how he discussed about his girlfriend Shreya when she was angry with him and she will scold Shreya to put her on track with Rohan. Shortly after 9:30, Rohan yawned and asked for coffee, as he was feeling tired and a bit sleepy. Chang handed him a cup of coffee from the vacuum flask and poured one for himself. Rohan felt refreshed, and suddenly, far left in the black sea, he saw a pool of light. Chang also saw the bright lights and said, "Perhaps that's some large ship." "Let us have a round over it," Rohan suggested, and Chang agreed. Within minutes, Rohan reached near the source and exclaimed, "Oh my God! What a beautiful sight!" He was looking at the lights of immensely and brightly lit derricks of a drilling platform. "It is indeed beautiful. We shouldn't hover over it. Let us move away quickly," replied Chang. Rohan increased the speed to 105 knots, nearly the full speed. This way they will move quickly away from the platform and also reach back early. It had started raining at 11, and Rohan had lifted the aircraft above the clouds. The wipers had cleaned the windshields. Suddenly there were more black droplets. Rohan started the wiper motors, but instead of cleaning the windshield, the wipers spread a translucent film of some dark liquid over the windshield. "What's that?" Rohan asked Chang, who suddenly got up alarmed as he was dozing in his seat. "I don't know," said a puzzled Chang, looking at the windshield. There were more droplets from nowhere, and the wipers were making the view more and more hazy. Rohan stopped the wipers, and the speed of the droplets increased. The air from the propellers was spreading them evenly on the windshield. Rohan opened the window and stretched out his hand to clean with a piece of cloth, but the windshield was too far. He kept the cloth aside and touched the liquid which had reached near the sides of the aircraft. He rubbed the liquid between his fingers and smelled it. Rohan looked at Chang in disbelief. Chang also looked questioningly, as if to ask the answer of his findings. As Rohan did not answer, Chang also opened his window and did the same thing as Rohan. Both looked at each other. Chang broke the silence. "Oil?" Rohan nodded. "From where this oil has come?" "From the engine, perhaps. But how?" Rohan thought hard. He remembered when a few years back, when he sat with his father watching the mechanic overhaul the engine of their old Ambassador car. He had seen the mechanic pour 5 liters of engine oil in the engine after assembling it. He had asked his father the role of this oil in the engine. He had also asked that why the oil did not spill out when the parts are moving at high speed while the car moved. His father had explained that lubrication was necessary for an engine to prevent it from seizure due to the friction between the fast-moving parts. His father had also explained him that an oil seal was put in position over the moving engine shaft to prevent the oil spillage, as it was the only place from where oil could escape. Oil could also escape from the packings of sump and the engine head. The oil must be the engine oil, and it is escaping from the oil seal of the engine shaft on which the propeller is mounted, Rohan explained Chang. "I also think so. What will be its effect?" he thought. Slow down quickly," he shouted. Rohan slowed down to 60 miles per hour, but the spillage did not stop. Perhaps the oil seal had developed a cut. "How much oil do we have in this engine?" asked Chang. "About 7 or 8 liters. What will happen when all the oil is drained out like this?" "The engine will seize, perhaps, and we will fall in the sea," Chang completed the sentence. It was a very grave situation indeed. The oil was draining out gradually. It might have happened due to the continuous fast speed or imperfect assembly of the engine or a spurious oil seal. There was nothing they could do. The engine will seize and stall. "Take the plane down. Let us see if there is some hope," said Chang. The rain was bitter. Nothing was visible. Darkness was everywhere. Rohan lowered the plane up to the sea level, switched on the landing lights, and circled to find any small island on which they could land. They tried very hard but could not find a piece of land. "I think the plane should be taken up and then we could decide the course of action," Rohan suggested, and lifted the plane up above the clouds again. The commotion subsided and they again looked at the windscreen, which was covered with a black, translucent film of oil. "First of all, I should inform George." Chang switched on the satellite phone and checked their location. "George, there is some trouble in our aircraft. It is going to crash in the sea. Our location is 19 degree 10 north and 117 degree 18 east. I repeat, 19 degree 10 north and 117 degree 18 east." "What happened?" shouted George. "There is oil spillage from the engine oil seal, and we can see it on the windshield. We have perhaps only a few minutes left before the engine stalls due to the loss of oil and the aircraft falls in the sea. We have 2 options. We have floats, life jackets, and parachutes. We can either jump with the aid of the parachutes carrying the floats and the life jackets, or we can land carefully on the sea. If you are sure that the plane will crash, use the parachutes. It will be safer. Crash landing at sea at night will be very dangerous. I will check if there are some ships in the vicinity for your rescue. Take care of your satellite phone. Wrap it in polythene cover carefully. I will do something," said George. "Hurry up, Rohan. We will have to use the parachutes." "This is what I also felt as safer." Both put on the life jackets and strapped on the parachutes. Chang wrapped the satellite phone carefully in a thick polythene bag and kept it securely in his pocket. He wrapped and secured his gun in a similar way. He opened the briefcase and took out the 4 remaining wads of dollars. He looked at the dollars and thought for a moment. He wrapped 3 wads and pocketed them. The rest 1 packet, amounting to $100,000, was wrapped and handed by him to Rohan. "Your balance money." Rohan carefully kept this packet along with his other notes, wallets, and mobile phone, which he had charged at the island, wrapped in polythene bags. Chang and Rohan quickly inflated the additional floats, one float each, and Chang explained Rohan the method of using the parachute. The oil spillage had subsided. The engine spluttered and the propeller stalled. The plane will now float in the air, gradually lose its height, and after a minute or two crash into the sea. "Now, after me," shouted Chang, opened the door, which was very hard to push due to the air pressure, jumped out with great difficulty, and disappeared in the darkness. The door struck back very hard. Rohan tried to push the door open, but it was jammed. Perhaps because of the combined effect of the hard closing and the air pressure. Rohan again tried, but the door won't open. He was sweating profusely in spite of the cold cockpit. The heart pounding was so hard, as if it will burst out of the chest. Suddenly he realized the presence of the second door. What a fool he was! He cursed himself for losing himself in such a critical situation and opened the other door. The wind was forcing to close it. He had almost jumped out of the plane when he heard the faint voice of Chang calling him, "Rohan! Rohan!" Alarmed, he looked inside the plane. Was Chang still inside the aircraft and trapped somewhere? From where was he calling? But was he dreaming about this faint voice? But he was sure that he had clearly listened to Chang calling his name. Was he again hiding under the tarpaulin? He could not leave Chang here to die, trapped in the aircraft. With great difficulty, he reached the tarpaulin and looked under it. Nothing. The plane staggered and he fell in a corner. Time was running out. He didn't know about the altitude. He cast a quick glance at the altimeter. The needle was running madly and couldn't be read. He reached to the door and opened it. Again he heard the voice of Chang calling him. "Rohan! Rohan!" What was it? He thought. Has he died and his soul is calling his name? He shivered and was about to die when he heard the voice clearly. "Rohan! Please help me!" Sure, it was Chang calling him, but where he was? How he could be around when he had jumped 2 minutes earlier? Rohan took the flashlight and tried to look around the aircraft. Nothing was visible, but the voice of Chang was there. "Here, below, look, Rohan! I'm entangled with some rope with the aircraft door." He immediately jumped towards the other window and looked below with the flashlight. He could see some shadow moving behind the aircraft. Chang was there, hanging upside down in the air, entangled with some rope, part of which was stuck in the door, which had quickly slammed shut due to the air pressure. In a hurry, his leg must have got entangled to some rope which was lying on the floor to tie the floats, etc., and he had jumped carrying the rope with him. The length of the rope could not go with Chang completely, and the door had caught it, perhaps on some knot, when he had slammed shut. Now Rohan understood that why the door was so badly stuck. Due to the rope or the knot inside the door, it had become extremely difficult to open it. Chang was careless and he got trapped. His own life was in danger also because of the slight foolishness of Chang. Rohan again tried to open the door with his full strength. He tried to push with his shoulder, but the space was less and full force could not be applied. Any time now, the plane will crash in the sea. Unprepared, both of them will be killed and drowned. The impact would be sufficient to kill them. Chang was helpless. He was the one who could do something. Ultimately, he decided that he should leave the idea of saving Chang and think of himself. He made up his mind and opened the door to jump. Again, he heard the exhausted voice of Chang. "Do something, Rohan!" He again moved inside and locked the door. With a great force, he kicked the jammed door. He felt that the door was opening. He kicked again. Was the door budging? He didn't know. Now he shouted. He was almost on his back. His shoulder rested on the second door and he gave a very hard kick. The impact was so hard that the locked door on which he was resting his shoulders gave way and he fell out in the air. Whether the other door had opened or not, he didn't know. He felt that the door had opened, but he was not sure. If the door had not opened, he was sure to lose a friend named Chang. He gathered speed and actuated the parachute mechanism as instructed by Chang. With a swish, the parachute opened and his motion slowed down. He waited for the sea to touch his body. He heard a loud splash after a few seconds. The plane had plunged into the sea. He had a close shave. What had happened to Chang? He thought, and said to himself, I will see in the morning. Only God knew what was going to happen at sea. 21st March, 9:05 p.m. Private room number 102, Global Hospital, New Delhi. Shekhar, Ritu and Surekha's mother were waiting in this room so that they may be available in case of any need. However, Surekha was out of any danger now. She was still in the ICU. They were allowed to meet her and she was pleading only for her son Rohan. The doctor had given her sedatives and she was snoring now. Due to tiresomeness of the day, Shekhar had dozed in the chair. He dreamt that Rohan was a young boy of about 5 years and was lost in some dark cave. He was crying and calling him to come and help him out of this dungeon. He had gone to rescue him, but due to the darkness, he was unable to locate him. He woke up with a start and found himself groping for that 5-year-old Rohan. In spite of the air conditioning, he could feel the sweat on his brow. Rohan, my boy, where are you? He murmured painfully. He felt a soft touch on his shoulder. Ritu was there. Perhaps she was watching him and had come to console him. Shekhar held her hand, smiled and assured her that everything will be fine, but they all will have to be patient. Shekhar had telephoned every possible link to Philippines and ultimately he was advised to wait till morning. There was nothing else they could do. Sleep was very far away. Surekha's mother was crying now and then. She was worried about her daughter as well as for her grandson. Shekhar had requested the nurse to give some sedatives to her also so that she may also calm down. After a few minutes, Rohan touched the sea and started floating with the help of a ring-shaped float that surrounded him. He wrapped the parachute and detached himself from it. He tied the bundle to his back. The sea was calm and hot. It had already gulped the aircraft and perhaps Chang too, and was ready to gulp him also. Rain had stopped. Moonlight was shining from a gap in the clouds, and a blackish sea was all around him at his service. He was unable to see anything farther than water. It appeared that he was in some very large, dark well, and the walls were far off and nothing was visible beyond the unseen walls. He settled himself in the float and tried to calm himself. It was only 12 hours or 1/2 day after having flown this ill-fated plane, and he had suffered the worst time of his whole life till date. He reviewed today's events, which moved like movies in his mind. The start in the plane, the cruise ship at Subic Bay, how he lost his way, the appearance of Chang, the journey to the island near Hong Kong, the experience at the island, the return journey, the trouble with the aircraft, the struggle with the door, and now this situation in the sea. All the events were like a long nightmare and were unbelievable yet true. He was tired and required some rest. Will he be able to have some sleep in this position? He was packed in a round float with a life jacket tied onto his chest, a parachute bundled and tied to his back, dipped up to his chest in the sea water, clothes completely soaked. He felt extremely uneasy. Watch, mobile phone and currency notes were carefully wrapped and kept in his pockets. He had nothing to eat and didn't have drinking water with him. He closed his eyes and relaxed. Waves were moving him up and down, and he found his body drifting slowly with the currents. He didn't know that for how much time he will have to remain in this position. rescue was sure to arrive, at least for Chang, as he had pinpointed his exact position. Besides, he had the satellite phone and was able to contact his brother, rescue teams, or anybody on this globe. He thought little of any rescue team for himself, as George did not dare to inform the authorities that he had crashed here. For Chang also, George will, or rather Lamont will arrange for some helicopter or some motorboat. The brother of one and the chief field operative of the other person, Chang, had more chances of survival. As the time passed, Rohan felt that his chances of survival seemed very dim. He knew that the coast was at least 300 miles away. Nobody knew about his position. Chang had disconnected the transmitter and the plane will be undetectable. If some rescue teams arrived to save Chang, and if Chang was nearby, he could also be saved along with Chang. But in these currents, both were sure to drift miles and miles apart. Suddenly, the rain started. He looked at the sky and opened his mouth so as to grasp some pure water. Although he was not thirsty, he required water for his future health. He could not sleep throughout the night. The position was awkward and his back ached. The day dawned, slight light appeared, and the red sun started to emerge from the sea, far in the horizon. He trembled as he looked at the vast expanse of the sea around him. He circled and looked around him very carefully. Nothing was visible except water. He looked hard around him to find the trace of any land or ship, but could find nothing. If any trace of land is found, he would try to make efforts to swim towards that place. There was no trace of Chang also.